My name's Gigi Devaney, and I am now a senior consultant with chalkandwire. My title's changed quite a bit over the years. At one point I was chief operating officer. But I've been with chalkandwire almost 7 years. And prior to joining chalkandwire, I was at Johns Hopkins University. I was working in emerging technologies, specifically portfolio development and assessment. So this was 15 years ago almost, when the world of portfolios and assessment was very different than it is right now. So I've kind of watched this whole field just change drastically. I spend the majority of my time with chalkandwire working with faculties at colleges and universities and helping them move through this process. chalkandwire is a little bit unique in that we only take on about 12 to 15 new clients a year. We do that so that you can pick up the phone and call someone, and there will be a real person you probably know on the other end of the line. Service is a real big issue for us, and we kind of have realized that the software, I mentioned this to Don earlier, and this is a little bit probably odd to hear someone in my role say, the software is probably the least important part of this process. The people part are the most important part. So like any type of organizational change process, we spend a lot of time with folks working on that's kind of the soft side of things. The software, it does what you tell it to do. It's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward, and we'll definitely get a thorough view of that. But we do kind of take a little different perspective. There are no salespeople at chalkandwire. That's the other thing. We don't have a sales staff or account managers or anything along those lines. We also don't have a big building that's named after us or a big office park or something like that. We are a virtual company, and we use the technology that we work in every day. Everyone with chalkandwire works from their home office, and we travel when we need to. We talk multiple times a day to each other with Skype, with email, with phone, with whatever we need to. And then we all do come together when we need to, at least a couple of times a year. So it's a very different kind of environment to work in. I gave up a 2-hour commute to do this, so I love my job. So anyway, with that, are there any questions before I jump in here and show you the software? Yes, ma'am. The home office is just about an hour from Buffalo, New York. We're actually in near St. Catharines, Ontario, in a town called Ridgeway. So we're actually a Canadian company. Yeah, I'm from Baltimore, near Baltimore. But our help desk is run out of Tampa, Florida, and we have kind of people everywhere. So, any other questions? Okay. I usually like to start by just showing you a couple of student portfolios. I'd like to think about this tool in 2 ways. One of them is as a portfolio authoring tool. So this is a place for students to showcase their work, put the things you tell them to put in some cases, but it can be a gallery, it can be a professional portfolio, it can be used as an employment portfolio. So I have some samples of that I'd like to show you. The other perspective of the software is the assessment side of things. And the assessment side is where faculty and anyone you would like to participate in the assessment process can go in and assess student work. That can be done on a formative basis, it can be done at a summative level, it can be done by committee if you want, it can be done by a single professor. It's really, or all of those things. It's really what fits your process now that's going to result in data that is valid and meaningful and feedback that is most beneficial to the student. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about the student. And we really believe that the student is at the center of this process, and they should be in everything that happens. So anytime someone calls us and says, oh, we love this, but we'd really like it to do X, Y, and Z. The first question that we talk about as a management team is that good for students or not? Is that going to enhance the teaching and learning process? Is that going to enhance the experience for students? If the answer is no, then that feature or that enhancement or whatever it is probably doesn't go any further. So that's a big thing for us. Everyone in a senior management position with Chalk and Wire has been a teacher in higher ed at one point or another in their career. So we're educators first and foremost, and that's how we kind of approach everything. This portfolio is a student portfolio. It was developed by Nicole Abendroth. She's at Southern New Hampshire University. To show you a little bit about our setup here, the items on the left are the table of contents. That's the structure for the portfolio. And these are required elements. So these are the things that she was told to put in the portfolio as a result of her coursework. So as you can see here, we can have a video. This is Nicole. I don't know if you can hear that or not.
In this portfolio, you can find
there's text, there's links to documents, to files. It's a freshman portfolio. All right. This is using the same tool. This is a professional portfolio or an employment portfolio that was developed from a graduate level student who's looking for a job. This is the table of contents here. She designed this table of contents or this structure on her own. She wanted to showcase her skills in a way that would make sense for a prospective employer. And again, as we click through here, we're going to see different types of content here. Some subsections to this. She's got some lesson plans up here. I don't think she has a video of her. Oh, maybe she does down here. So again, very different kind of portfolio using the exact same tool. I'm going to show you one more. That is even more different. This is a faculty portfolio. With Chalk and Wire, everybody has all faculty and have the ability to build portfolios themselves. So if you'd like to use the tool for your own professional development, you can do that. This is a tenure and promotion portfolio. Table of contents over here on the left. And all of this has been populated. So this was developed about 1.5 years ago. It was successful. I always have to say that for Dr. King. She did get her promotion, so that's a good thing here. And there is video embedded. There are documents embedded, copy of her book, all kinds of other things that are here. So the portfolio authoring tool can be used in a variety of ways. Any questions about any of this so far? Okay, I'm going to make you ask me questions, all right? Okay. All right, so what we're going to do now is go through this portfolio development process. This is a typical login screen. This can be integrated into your a portal. It can be integrated into Moodle. You can skip this whole page completely if you would like to do that. Most of our schools don't, for whatever reason. I think there's some fear of talking to their IT department maybe to make it happen. I don't know. In some schools there's a giant wall between faculty and IT, but not that you would know anything about that, I'm sure, but many schools that's the case. So this typical login screen, it is branded with the college. We have options. Except for one client, yes, we host everything. We've had the option for schools to host it themselves for probably 4 or 5 years now. The only institution that has taken us up on that is the Center for Disease Control. The CDC is the client, and they host it themselves, which is perfectly fine. So they have some pretty rigorous security policies, and they have to keep everything behind their own firewall. So not to say that we're not secure, we are. Everything you're going to see in Chalk and Wire is going to be a secure URL, HTTPS, as we move through this, but that's just a CDC policy that they do it that way. Okay, this is a portfolio that I did earlier. I am logged in here as Bunker Hill student number 1. So nothing too exciting there. When you first come into Chalk and Wire, you're coming into a dashboard. The dashboard is going to have some options at the top. Help. I have a contact list manager. I have some messages. We'll look at those in a second. And I can always get back to the dashboard from wherever I am. This yellow bar up here is because we released a new version of Chalk and Wire back in the fall, and we gave schools the option of moving to it whenever they wanted to. So some schools have not moved to it yet. So that's why we have the not sure where to start, things looking different line. Things on the dashboard include list of portfolios or portfolio progress. We'll go in and look at that. You can see that this portfolio would be 50% complete. So I have content in 50% of this portfolio. I also have a self-evaluation, and we'll talk about that as well when we get into the assessment part. But students can be self-assessed if that's something that you're interested in doing with your students. That's a real easy process. To get into this portfolio, I'm just going to click on it, and it's going to take me to the working portfolio. Over here on the left side of the screen is my table of contents. This was developed by the faculty. Well, this I developed, but you would develop this. Bless you. And then this is the working page over here on the right. So I don't have anything on the home page, but I do have some content over here under assignment 1. Now, virtually any type of content can go into Chalk and Wire. So this is just text that's in there. We can have video, audio, links to other things, URLs, spreadsheets, whatever it is that you'd like to put in there can go in there. And I just, Donna had provided me with some samples, so that's why I just used the samples that she gave me here. Here's another section of this where I have some content in here. And this is just a little sample video clip that I had, so nothing too exciting there either. If I want to add some content to this paragraph or to this section, I can click on text, and this is where I add my content. I can format this if I like to. I can use my quick editor. I can use HTML if I know that. So we don't believe that a student should have to know web design to create a professional looking portfolio. It should be pretty simple. If they can do email, they can create a portfolio. So if I wanted to change this, or whatever I'd like to do with it, make some of it blue. I'm just going to click Save and click Close. So, yes, ma'am.
If students are updating papers that are formatted, what happens to that format?
If they're doing something where the formatting is essential, like it's MLA or APA format, I would suggest that they save it as a file and upload it as a separate file rather than pasting the content right here. Let me show you how that works. I'm just going to upload an artifact, and then I'm going to pull it from my hard drive, wherever that file might be. There's the file. So it's going to open in whatever format, or if it was created in Word, it'll launch Word to open it. If it was created in Excel, whatever it might be. So you can upload spreadsheets, you can upload PowerPoints, whatever the student work product is can go up in its native format. Yes, ma'am.
I have 2 questions. On the left-hand side, you said faculty designed that as a sort of template. I'm assuming students have the option if you didn't find something.
Yeah, there's actually kind of 2.5 ways to do this. You can give them a very prescriptive sort of structure to follow. Or like I showed you in that professional portfolio, the student portfolio or the faculty portfolio, it can be built by the person creating the portfolio. Just sort of as you go, you can build it. The student could do that. You could also have a hybrid in between where you create perhaps, a couple of headings here, and then you give the student the option for adding more. So that's what we call an unlocked portfolio. So you can kind of give them a starting point and then they can add to it if you want to. So really kind of 2.5, I guess, is the best way to look at it.
And my second question was, you may have answered this before, just memory capacity, like how, in terms of videos, and is there any limit?
There's no technical limit. There is a practical limit, however, in terms of video, which is no one wants to watch 45 minutes of a student doing something, really anything. Okay, unless you guys have way more time on your hands than I do. So I work with a lot of teacher prep programs as well, and so a lot of times they ask students to videotape themselves teaching. There's really very little that's more painful than watching a brand new teacher introduce a lesson for 45 minutes or something. So really, you disagree or yeah, oh, it's painful, So really from a kind of a pedagogical perspective, the best way to approach video if you're asking students to do something like that is, the 3 to 5 minutes with the reflection.
I'm more thinking
Or
of file size, like if there are visual elements for our visual media arts department or computer programs that require a lot of memory.
right. Technically, no. However, it's really kind of a matter of practicality. Whatever goes in has to come out one way or another. So, in terms of computer applications, we do not allow the upload of exe files. So I know that was on a question. That's because they are potentially damaging to our servers. You want to host it yourself, you can upload whatever you want. All right, or you host them somewhere, or you host those things somewhere else and you link to them, which is how most schools approach this. So
So you mean if we chose to host chalkandwire ourselves?
you can host it yourself if you want to.
Well, I know.
Yeah, and then you can put whatever in, yeah.
We can put whatever.
Yeah. No, exe files are potentially a security risk for our servers, so we don't allow that. So, any other questions? Okay. All right, so obviously putting content in, it's a pretty simple, sort of straightforward process. Once the student has something in here, they can decide to share it if they want. They can share it in whole or in part. So let's say I have several pages to that portfolio, and maybe I only want to share one page of it. I can do that. I can share it via secure URL, so it'll create a URL that I can then paste into an email and send out if I want to do it that way. I can download the portfolio, and I could save it to a flash drive and pass it out at a job fair, or whatever might be appropriate there. I can also post it to Facebook, send it via email right from here. I can tweet it if you want to do that with your portfolio. So however students want to kind of disseminate their work, they are in control of it. This is not the assessment part, however. This is them just sharing their work. So we haven't done any assessment yet. The student is in total control of this. All right? Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Can they have different permissions for different sections of the portfolio?
They can create as many different sharing views as they would like to. So I could share this portfolio in its entirety. Let's say I want to do that. This is the URL right here. Okay? I can come back and I can say, well, now I just want to share one page of it, and I can do that. It'll create a different URL. So I can create as many different versions of this view as I want to. Does that make sense?
But I cannot go per section and say, okay, this will be visible by faculty people only, this will be visible by this or this will be visible only by me and so forth.
It's only visible by the student unless the student takes action. So it's entirely private to the student unless the student chooses to do one of two things. They choose to share it using the sharing feature, and they could share it in whole or part as many different ways as they would like to. and they can send it out to whoever they would like to. Or they submit it for assessment, in which case it's visible to you. Okay? Did that?
So you can't like get the whole class enrolled in it, so you have the ability to see everybody's portfolio?
Sure, when they turn it into you for assessment, absolutely.
But for the other students to see it, to create it in class, that would be of course.
If you want them to share it that way, absolutely you can do that.
So how do you?
You want students to be able to see each other's work before the student says it's finished and ready for anybody else to see it?
Sure.
That's a FERPA violation.
No, the student is saying they want to do that.
The students want to.
Well, then they can share it. They can set up sharing groups however they would like to. As a faculty member, you cannot go in and say, oh, I want to know how Susie's doing today, and just go in on your own initiative and look at their portfolio. They have to take some action to share it. Does that?
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay. Yeah, you can.
Do all the sharing all through hyperlinks.
No, it doesn't have to be. It could be through groups as well. That's just how most people do it, is through hyperlinks, because most of the time it's going outside. Yeah, there's another, let me show you this. You can create a collaborative portfolio as well. This is sharing within the community. Okay, so within your portfolio environment. So if I want to take this portfolio and make it collaborative, I can do that, which means people can review it, they can comment on it, and the collaborative group could be set up by the student if they wanted to, or you could set up a collaborative group for your class and say, we're going to, this will be our learning community. And you do it for your class that way. So there's really lots of different ways to do this, and the question I always get to is, so what do you want it to look like? What do you want to do? And you can do it, it's just there's a lot of different configurations here. So, yes ma'am.
Just going back to the last, the sharing, the
Mhm.
staff page, that would be something that might be beneficial if you had like a segmented resume and we're targeting different industries. You could capture, certain portions of the resume, send it out to one place, other portions or other configurations, send it to another place. Am I right?
That's one way to do it, but you could also just create another portfolio specific for that one job, because the work is already there, you're just repurposing it,
Yes.
presenting in a different way. So, does that make sense for everybody? Okay, sometimes this is one of those things that there's multiple options for how to do this, so sometimes it's kind of hard to capture all of them. Yes, ma'am.
It might be useful because it seems like much of what we've talked about so far is this sort of showcasing of your best work concept, where you're
Could
sending
be,
out
right.
and Pat's question is getting more of the use of e-portfolios as a process for reflecting and learning within groups. And so that might be where the disconnect is. We see it for both.
Do you want students to become peer assessors? Do you want students to have a peer assessor role, so they assess each other's work?
I don't want just to read what another has written in class.
Okay.
And not necessarily, they can give feedback if they want, but I'm not asking them to evaluate it anyway.
Okay.
But they do that now. They look and see what others have read.
Right, and they will continue to do that.
And they can revoke the permission at any time if they want.
Right. They can still do that. But it's what I'm saying. It's the student whose work is being shared has to take initiative to make that happen. So, right.
Option not to open it up to class, but most want to open it.
So they can create a group and they can share with the group, and the group could be their close friends or the entire class if they wanted to. If you wanted to manage the group process as the instructor, you could do that as well and have everyone in the class in the group. There's really lots of different ways to set this up. So, okay, moving into, let me jump out of this sharing feature here. Moving from that kind of showcase or gallery portfolio or employment portfolio into an assessment portfolio. Student has done this work, all of these lovely things that are here. And now it's time to turn it in. By the way, you can also embed instructions on this page if you'd like to. So there's instructions embedded down there, which I can move around. So the student's done this work, they're ready to turn it in. They're going to click submit.
Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely. You're using up your quota, but it's okay. No. Yep, they just click and drag the paragraphs around. Absolutely. So for demonstration purposes, I attached one of the rubrics that Donna sent me, and I also made it, created a second one from that same rubric to make it a self-assessment, so I could show you what that works like if that's something that would be of interest. So I'm going to choose the instrument that I want to submit this to. If there's only one instrument, so there's not a self-assessment or whatever, you skip this screen completely. You don't have to go here. It just goes straight to the next page. Then the student, the way this is set up, chooses who they're turning the work into. Now, they don't have to do it this way. You can have it automatically go to an instructor. You can have it automatically go to a group or a committee if you do any kind of summative portfolio review committee, capstone sort of things. You can do that. It really depends on you. If you have students who are peer assessors, you could have it go to students if you want to. So this is really looking at that individual assessment and what's the protocol for that. So lots of options here. And as you notice, I can send it to more than one person at a time. Go. There were 2 names there. Let me show. I can do it again. Just after I clicked. Okay. All right. So all I did was type. You can do this again, lots of different ways. You can have a whole list of instructors come up and they choose their instructor. It can go straight to the one instructor that's associated with the instrument. I just typed in one letter. I typed in the letter G. And I see all the people that came up with that letter in their name. And I'm just going to choose somebody. Now, I've already gone past this, so I'm just coming back here to show you.
Like, could it be like group 1?
It could be group 1. And if you're doing committee assessment, or we call it assessor pools, you have lots of very cool options there. You set up a group of faculty or a group of assessors. And you can say that you want student work to go to everyone in the group. Or you want student work to go to a certain number of people within the group at random. Or you want to see all the scores aggregated. So you have all these people assess it, but you only want one score back. Or you have all these people assess it, and you want multiple scores back. Or you don't want names attached to those scores. Okay, so think about how you might handle committee assessment. There's lots of different colors and flavors of that. They're not all going to be appropriate, but you have lots of choices there.
Can a student send work to an individual professor, but then the professor then submit it to a committee?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
do they have permission to do that?
Yes. Yes, they have permission to do that. Anything that a student submits to a faculty member in fulfillment of a course can be shared with anyone else at the institution for the purposes of program audit, research, or accreditation. So as long as it falls under one of those headings, you're good. So the other feature, and I'll get to that in just a second. Let me jump back ahead here. We have something called escalation, which gives you that multiple level of assessment. Student turns something in. You score it. And let's say they need a 3.0 to meet your threshold of performance, whatever, based on your scale. Student doesn't quite make the 3.0. Maybe they're 2.8. Based on that score, without any action on your part, other than scoring it initially, it could automatically go to someone else because they fell into that gray area. That's an escalation feature. So, or you could also do it the other way, where student scores very low and they get a message back automatically that says, you need to go to the writing center, or whatever it might be, or you really need to come see your instructor. It also allows you to pull out those students that score at an exemplary level, and maybe you want to send those past the dean's desk, perhaps. Okay. So you can use escalation for lots of things, but it's not necessary. Basically, it takes the burden off the instructor. You don't always have to be the one to pass it on. You could have it automatically go regardless of the score, or you could have, no, the committee only needs to see scores that come into this range, whatever that might be.
If we're looking at a student's essay, is there a print feature, or would we have to do Control P if we wanted to print out something that we're looking at?
If it's something that's embedded, if it's a file that's attached, it's going to open Word, and you'll be able to print from Word. If it's something that's embedded on the page, you're just going to print the screen. So generally, I don't suggest that people put huge documents right on in that text box if formatting is an issue or those kinds of things, that they actually attach those as a file. Again, it depends on what the assignment is and what's going to work best. I submitted this doc